The F-16 Fighting Falcon is a multi-role fighter aircraft originally developed by General Dynamics, now Lockheed Martin, for the United States Air Force and first flown in 1974. The F-16 is a lightweight, highly maneuverable aircraft known for its agility, versatility, and high thrust-to-weight ratio. Known across the world, the F-16 is a very recognizable aircraft and is one that has made a fantastic radio-controlled version time and time again. And recently, we just got a new release from FMS, which is sitting here right in front of me. I'm Alex from Hangar 14 RC, and here's everything you need to know before you fly the FMS 64mm F-16 Fighting Falcon. Now, before we dive right into it, if you are at all interested in this jet for yourself, you can check the link in the description of this video. I'll also leave a coupon code that you can use for $10 off. Helps you save some money, and it helps me keep making videos just like this, and it helps keep making those videos possible. Now, we got introduced to the brand new F-16 from FMS a few months ago, and we got it in two different versions. Version number one being the military version, sporting a gray livery with a choice of a couple of different squadrons when you choose to install the decals. The other being this one right here, which is of course the United States Air Force Thunderbirds livery. Now, both of these planes are exactly the same, besides the fact that the military version does come with a full ordnance package with it. With a wingspan of just 28 inches and a total length of 42.9 inches, the total flying weight of this plane comes in at right around 1,070 grams for the Thunderbird version and about 1,350 grams for the fully loaded military version with all the ordnance. Of course, this is powered by a 12-bladed 64mm fan being spun by a 2840 3150 kV brushless motor paired with a 40 amp speed controller. Now, this is a plug-and-play airplane, meaning that all of this comes installed, ready to go. The only thing that you're going to need is a 6-channel receiver to bind to your radio of your choosing and a 4S 2200 milliamp LiPo pack to get this thing in the air. Since this is a 6-channel airplane, we do have ailerons, we have elevator, a rudder, a steerable nose wheel, and even reverse thrust. Now, there are 6 9-gram digital servos that you'll find all around this plane, and they all utilize some pretty nice ball link connectors. The landing gear are actually very scale looking, but as you can imagine, like with most 64mm EDF jets, these are fixed landing gear. No retracts on this one, unfortunately. Overall, you do get a pretty detailed F-16 with the addition of a very bright navigation LED light system all around the plane. It seems honestly like a pretty good deal for $200, but how does it fly? After quite a few packs burned through, there are some things that I've noticed since owning and flying this thing as much as I've had the chance to that I think you should know. The good, the maybe not so good, and some things that you should know before picking this thing up for yourself, and of course, bringing it out for that first flight. Let's start with the good. Right out the gate, I think FMS did a really good job with this airplane when it comes to the looks and some of the scale details that you can find around the plane. There's actually quite a bit of attention to detail that you can spot pretty much anywhere that you look on the plane, and I always appreciate that. This plane is more than just a molded piece of foam. The landing gear as well, while fixed, still do look really great. They have these plastic covers on there that add a nice touch of scale detail, and I mean, if we have to see them the entire time because they don't retract, you might as well make them look good, right? The front gear here also has a nice shock absorption to it. It actually is kind of like a working front nose gear. Now, the Thunderbird's livery itself looks absolutely incredible, and we even get a detailed cockpit with a pilot in there, which is easily removed by the push of this button here. Thank you, FMS, for actually using something other than just a piece of like packing tape to remove the hatch from your airplane. Now, the lights all around the plane are like icing on the cake. They are incredibly bright, and if you're out at the field a little later in the evening, they're gonna look absolutely amazing in the sky. But even during the day, you can still see them pretty well. Now, when it comes to the assembly of this plane, it was actually incredibly fast. On the FMS website, they have an assembly time listed of 10 minutes. Now, it's a quick assembly, but I don't know if it's 10 minutes quick. I don't know about you, but like, I'm not usually speed running any of my RC plane assemblies. I like to take my time, you know? Realistically, you're looking at about a 25 to 30 minute full assembly time, start to finish, with a little more added to let the glue fully dry if you're not using like a CA based glue, because there are some parts that you do need to use glue for. But probably the number one thing that I will put in the good category for this plane is the fact that I have been able to fly it off of our grass runway at our local flying field. Not very often am I able to take off and land 64mm jets at our field with the landing gear on it, but with the power that this thing has, it's able to do it just fine. Is it ideal? Probably not, but it does do it, and that's a win in my book. Now, while this plane does have some really good qualities to it, there are some things that I think should be talked about as well that would fall into maybe the not so good category. Now, take this as you will and use your own judgment. However, these are just some things that just stuck out to me. Number one, we have these itty bitty little elevators on the back here. Now, if you were to look at the real life F-16, you'll notice that the entire horizontal stabilizer is a control surface. This is very common on fighter jets as it provides a ton of control. Unfortunately, on a lot of these smaller EDF jets, we get elevators cut into the stabilizer instead. Now, I'm not exactly sure why this is. I have a 64mm F-22 back here that features a full flying horizontal stabilizer, and it works incredibly well, and it's a pretty simple mechanism. So I'm surprised that even with a new version of the F-16 and the new to market EDF, we're still getting this setup. Now, this isn't the end of the world. They still do what they need to do. It controls the airplane. However, I would have loved to see a full flying stabilizer setup on the back of this plane, as it would have also cut out another spot that required glue. Now, speaking of gluing things, the second thing that stood out to me was the fact that the vertical stabilizer glues into place. Now, I'm not against gluing things. I'm really not. I've been around the hobby for a long time, and I've built my fair share of models and balsa kits. However, what I thought was a bit weird is the fact that it's glued into place with the servo wire running through it, meaning that if for whatever reason that servo were to ever go bad or we need to replace it, well, you're gonna have to do some surgery to actually replace it. Now, what are the odds of that happening? I'm not too sure, but for me, I would have liked to see this assembled with a few screws and some mounting points instead of just gluing the entire thing into place. Now, with all that said, in a couple dozen flights on this thing now, there are some things that I've learned and taken away while flying this jet that I think you should definitely know before you go and purchase this thing for yourself, and especially before you take it out for that first flight. First things first, the F-16 in general has a very narrow wheelbase, making this jet prone to like tipping over on you at pretty much any point. Kind of like those old three-wheelers. If you try to turn this thing at any sort of speed, it's probably gonna go like full Reliant Robin on you and just pole vault the nose into the ground. Ask me how I know. Still never found the pitot tube from that day. I'm gonna have to buy a new nose cone. My recommendation, if you are flying this on any sort of grass or turf, to walk it out to the runway, to the spot that you want to take off from. Don't try to taxi it, and if you have a nice paved surface, make sure the speed is slow when trying to turn. It will just tip over on you. It's no fault of the model really, it's just kind of the design of the plane. Now, once you get this plane in the air, however, it is a ton of fun. It's capable of most scale aerobatics. Now, it's got a decent amount of power, but not all the power, meaning that you will have to do some airspeed management to do some maneuvers. When it comes to things like a high alpha, it is possible. However, this is where I think those full flying stabilizers would really shine, giving it some more authority at lower speed. Flight time on this thing is right around 3.5 to 4 minutes, depending on how aggressively you are flying and how much time is spent on full throttle. And the last thing I will say about this plane, and honestly might be the most important thing to keep in mind, is to make sure to check the center of gravity, especially if you have the military version and are using the ordnance package with it. This airframe is relatively small, all things considered, and moving that battery even like a 1/4 inch forward or backward can have quite the impact on performance. Now, when you go to check your CG on this one, make sure to do it with the plane upside down as well. My recommendation would be to find your CG and place some sort of reference mark as to where your battery is going to sit. So if you're out at the field, you got multiple batteries charged up, you can quickly swap those batteries out. You're not have to worry about checking your CG every single time. You'll be ready to go. Now, this has been my first ever plane from FMS, and I gotta say, I'm actually pretty impressed with it. I think they've come pretty far from where they first started when it comes to releasing RC airplanes into the market, and they've managed to do some pretty innovative stuff throughout the last few years. And I think this new F-16 from them, for the price point that it's at, does make a really great option for a 64mm fighter jet. So hopefully this has helped give you some real insight into this plane, some first-hand insight if you've been checking this plane out for yourself. And if that's the case, make sure to check out that link down in the description like I said before, and use that coupon code because you can save $10 on this plane right now. So thank you all so much for watching. If there is a plane you would like me to review next here on this channel, let me know down in the comments and I'll make sure to make an attempt to get at it if I can. And on top of that, make sure to subscribe. I'm Alex from Hangar 14 RC. We'll see you later.